Everyone's just talking about AI the whole day. This conference is all about AI. Why? I blame ChatGPT. I think we have all tasted what AI can really do for us and how it can change our life. And you hear the way that travel tech CEOs are talking about AI, it's really going to be the biggest step change in recent history. Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky has described this as even being bigger than the development of the internet itself. It's going to make us more productive. It's going to make us far more efficient. And travel CEOs are all talking about this, a pipeline of travel products that use AI that are going to come up that are poised to change the way that you and I book travel. At a recent Skift Global conference, top executives all agreed two things. That AI was the big, huge opportunity on how companies are going to engage with customers. And that number two, it was going to affect travel jobs. So Darrell Chan, Uber CEO, said that we're going to now have personalized AI algorithms looking at you, looking at your occasion, and determining what to put in front of you in a very personalized way. Delta Airlines SVP and Chief Digital Officer says that we are going to be using AI to basically connect digital tools with technology and systems so that everything works better together. And with these opportunities also come hazards and challenges. For example, there has been talk about how entire job categories are going to be displaced by up to 20 to 50% because of the efficiencies that we're going to gain. Booking CEO Glenn Fogel has said that we are all working in this really competitive environment that has cost efficiency at its core. And AI is really concerning because governments are really going to have to think about how to deal with the displacement of talent and retraining. In fact, the senior partner at McKinsey & Company says we're all going to be replaced by people who are using AI. So what does the future look like? Is it really that grim? Or are there really great opportunities on the horizon that AI holds out for us? What are some of the challenges that we have to think about? And is there still a role for human beings in the age of artificial intelligence? I'm Darrell Chan, I'm the Deputy General Counsel for Airbnb in APAC. And with me is my esteemed panel that is going to be able to unpack all these questions that I've just asked. And we're going to just talk about this a little bit more. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's just talk about first opportunities. And Karen, I know Expedia has just announced a full slew of products that has got AI embedded to it. Tell us a little bit more about what's happening.
So the conversation on AI has really heated up since the launch of ChatGPT. And AI, ML, these aren't new to Expedia Group, and we've definitely launched a few products along those lines. I'll touch on those, but before I do that, just kind of three key things that we've learned as we've been building these products. And the first one is you've got to have a really strong technology platform to build on. The second is you've got to have a lot of high quality data. And the third is this is a new capability. These are highly skilled individuals. You don't build a model once and then move on. You train the model, you scale the model, you constantly are iterating and improving that model. And we've incorporated all of that into three products. And one of those products is our price tracking. So with price tracking, what we're doing is we're taking historical data around flights. We're combining that with current trends, and we're signaling to travelers, helping them determine when is the right time to purchase. The second thing is our virtual agent. So we talked a lot, I think, earlier about some of the ways that virtual agents can kind of help with servicing. That's a second one. And then the third is Trip Planner. So this is a conversational experience with ChatGPT incorporated as part of the Expedia app to plan a trip, to invite your friends, to comment, to to work together.
So it's not just about making things more efficient. I'm actually going to be able to save money from Price Tracker because you're going to tell me when is the cheapest time to book travel.
That's right. That's right. It's great for travelers. It's really great for all of our B2B partners as well because it helps us match the traveler to the right, travel experience. And so when that happens, happy travelers mean happier everyone.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you mentioned about just strong technology and Gianni, you're from Google and Google has I'm assuming, strong technology. So tell us a little bit more about what Google's investing in artificial intelligence in the space.
As our CEO has said back in 2016, we're going to be an AI company first. And so we pretty much have AI built into every single one of our products in different stages and levels. If you're a Gmail user, you can use AI to basically help complete your write your email. I'm in the travel space specifically, so if you use our flight search product, it could make recommendations on sort of what you should be paying and at what time of year you should be traveling. If you're a user of Google Photos, you can see that it also helps you take better photos and also allows you to make edits and modifications to your photos in a very sophisticated way. So there's so many different areas that AI is built into the products, and I think that's just going to continue to grow across the industry. Yeah.
Thanks, Gianni. And I think AI is not just for consumer-facing products. I'm sure it also has some impact on the B2B side. Maybe, Tom, you are at Travelport and you deal a lot on the B2B side. Tell us a little bit more about what you all are doing in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think my primary interest in AI is revolutionizing the back-end systems. All the talk in the industry is around these front-end systems, like with front-end automated assistants, and it's like having a really nice sports car, but the engine is 3 hamsters running on a wheel, So it's like, how can we make the back-end systems more efficient and better? And the other part about travel that's interesting is we all talk about shop. It's all about shop. Find the cheapest price. In the end, it's about servicing. It's about seats, beds, and wheels. That's what we sell. So how can you make changes to air schedules automatic? How can you automatically rebook and tell what people want? It's those back-end systems that really matter, is making efficient search and using all the data we have effectively, because you can have a really slick front end, but if what it's talking to doesn't understand what's going on, you're not going to get too far.
So do you think that AI is going to be the game changer in fixing all the inefficiencies in booking?
It's already a game changer. It's already starting to help deal with some of the complexity, but the predictive analytics around changes, because we're talking about physical infrastructure here. This is different than the internet because it's an airplane, and airplanes break, and there's thing called rain that happens, terrible stuff like that impacts us. And we need to find ways to automatically adjust around those problems, because today, those external problems are really, really affecting the travelers, and that's a bad experience.
And Ross, you have been working with AI for a long time, right? And not just on the generative AI bit, which we're all seeing now, but also the machine learning side. What have you seen in terms of your opportunities, investments into it, and what has worked, what hasn't worked?
Yeah, I mean, we've been messing around with ML for a long time, but I think ChatGPT, that was a real inflection point. I think that's when the world changed. So at Wego, we tried a bunch of things. Some of them we've launched, some of them we haven't. So we've the main focus is on building an intelligent agent, an assistant product, which we're going to sort of inject into our existing mobile app. And the idea is to augment the rich interface we've already built, to add to it so voice and natural language capabilities. Plus, the ambition is to be able to interact with it the same way you would with a really seasoned expert travel agent, but with the richness of the Wego UI we've already built. And I think we're also playing around with plugins, so into ChatGPT, having a look at the Bard framework. We haven't launched that. We thought that was not particularly useful, frankly. It was very slow and clunky. But I think it's a sort of a hint of things to come, right? So today, when we first started, we were building for web. Then sort of native apps, Android and iOS became the main target platforms. I think in a not too distant future, I think the major AI platforms offered by Google, Microsoft / OpenAI, probably Apple, maybe Facebook, Meta, will become something that looks a lot like an operating system that we're all trying to design, where applications or super plugins on steroids that we sort of inject or get called upon as required. And instead of a sort of a very basic text or with a little bit of rich text formatting, I think it's going to be entirely dynamic applications that we're able to work within. And the major assistant, owned by the underlying, the underlying, what do you call it, the base level model will know a hell of a lot about us, right? So we'll slowly be training it. It'll have all of our billing details. It'll know where we live. It'll know where we've traveled. It'll have all our location data. And those of us who are doing like vertical specific things, we'll then have to figure out how to inject our particular capabilities and APIs and the specific data we've got around the specific problem into that. And how all that comes together is like still to be determined, but I think that's sort of where a lot of the focus is going.
So the vision is really the aggregation of data so that the models have more to be trained on, right?
Well, yeah. So you've got you can have these base level models that the really big tech companies are going to continue to own and be I think largely the sole providers for. Some of them are going to be open sourced, and we're going to be free to tinker with those. But most of us are going to be sort of building on top of that.
And Gianni, is that how you see, the way that I think Ross has envisaged this idea of a...
Yeah, I think what you said a few minutes ago is absolutely correct. I think the difference, as was mentioned earlier, AI has been around for a long time. What hasn't been around is access to data more readily available to train these systems. So that's changed in the last 10 years. In the last 2.5 to 3 years, even more. And moving forward, even more. The data will be more readily accessible as the internet and the web environment develops. And so I think that's a huge difference, is the learning capabilities are significantly more than they've been in the past. So whatever we've seen or used AI for in the past, I think is going to explode incrementally now with access to the data. And I think also what's quite interesting is with the advent of cloud services, that sort of activity becomes available to anyone in the industry, whether you're a large player or a small player. There's a lot of open source systems, but also as cloud services proliferate and more data is brought together in a given area, then it can be used to train in a much better way. I think one of the issues we've all seen in the travel industry, especially if you look at the operators who do an amazing job trying to, fly planes every day, deliver hotel rooms every day. Technology over the years has built so many different databases. Data has been dispersed everywhere, and I think with data coming together in a more sort of cloud-type environment, it'll be more readily accessible to help these models learn. And I think that's the key to the future.
So it sounds like more data and then better AI that's built on top of that. And I think the way that our CEO talks about it, Brian Chesky talks about it in terms of you guys are going to be building the roads, and we're going to be building the cars on top of that drive on the highway. So I think that's kind of the analogy that we're thinking about. Karen, you had a thought as well.
Yeah, I was going to say at Expedia, we have really seen strong engagement on anything that we can do to simplify the travel experience. And I think that's what Tom was talking about, and Ross as well. And so that includes like a fully integrated sort of experience, but that also means, in the near term, servicing. That means how do you make your travel experience more relevant and more personalized? And there's a bunch that we can do right now. For example, the virtual agent. I think we've saved like 8 million hours of agent time. Wow. Like there's a real operational cost, and that's also a massive benefit to travelers. And so I think there's lots and lots of value. It's going to be a journey, but there's lots of value that we can get along that way.
So it sounds like it's already making some impact on the business bottom line. Is there stuff that has been done that hasn't really moved the needle? For example, conversion rates. Is that really personalization really helping that?
So what we have seen with, for example, I mentioned price tracking earlier. We have seen the majority of travelers who get an alert, they do open their app and they do go back. But I think it's definitely sort of hinges on training on the right data, high quality data, because, if it's not relevant, if it's not personalized to that traveler, then you're not going to get that engagement.
Right. So a lot of it is just the data hygiene as well, and rubbish in, rubbish out, right?
Yes, very much.
And as you're all thinking about development of AI, are there things that keep you up at night at all? Any hazards, any challenges? Maybe Gianni?
Yeah, I think we've seen, especially recently, we've seen the recent LLM models, large language models tend to hallucinate. So I think what's really super important is to figure out a way. One thing I was thinking about, or many people have been thinking about, is if there was a way to pin sort of an accuracy level or a level of confidence to, especially with Gen AI, to the responses that come back from these models, I think that would be phenomenal to help guide users. Okay, take this answer with a grain of salt, or this is verified and proven, and I can basically run with this. And
right.
so,
hallucination sounds like something you think that happens when you are on mushrooms. What is hallucination with AI? Maybe you can explain a little bit more about hallucination.
Well, at the end of the day, the thing that's, especially now with LLMs, the model doesn't know anything specifically, generally speaking, about the question you're asking. What it does is it looks at the language, it looks at the words that are brought together, and it essentially forecasts a response. Again, I'm generalizing here, but at a very high level, without getting into major detail, but that's what it does. And so a forecast, as we all know, can be extremely accurate or it could be extremely inaccurate. And so I think at the end of the day, grounding those results is going to be really important. So fact-checking those results, perhaps before they go out to the user. I think that's in the future going to be something really critical. And I know there's companies dealing with that. We're doing a lot of work in that area too. And so
great.
Yeah, we spent a bit of time trying to generate hotel descriptions, destination descriptions, and it works great if you've got a hotel with a ton of data out there already. But in the absence of that, it'll just make stuff up. So you need to figure out how to fact check anything you're going to publish.
Yeah, I'm less worried
Sounds plausible.
Yeah, I'm less worried about accuracy than I'm worried about privacy. The thing that bothers me the most is the data lake architectures that enable this. Is we have all the data in one place and it's available, but the type of data that we deal with in our industry is extremely sensitive. I mean, so Amazon, they know my shoe size. Whoopie-doo. What are they going to do with that? But we know passport numbers and all kinds of very, very important sensitive information, and making sure that information is protected but still allows for seamless check-in and eligibility and all of those types of things is a very difficult balance. And we have gates around that system historically in this industry, which are called data silos, which is the enemy of AI. So I think that battle between opening our data up and maintaining the integrity of a PII-based system is a challenge.
Well, that's you're speaking to the lawyer nerd inside me, because that's exactly what a lot of regulators are thinking about now. And the European Union is coming up with the AI Act, and so now it's sort of like in the process, and they're just thinking about privacy concerns, sort of like the bias in decision making, and also things exactly what you said on the data hygiene and the reliability of the data. So a lot of it is kind of like scale in terms of risk assessment. If it's a higher risk activity, they expect you to test a lot more. They expect you to make sure that you have factored in bias in decision making. Your data hygiene is extremely good before you actually launch the product out there, because it can cause some real world harm, right? And Karen, how does Expedia deal with these things?
Yeah, so we have created within Expedia a bit of a governance type of committee, and they're looking at the use of AI throughout our organization and making sure that it aligns to kind of our values across multiple dimensions. A lot of them, that we've already talked about. One is fairness, preventing, sort of unjust biases and things like that. Another is, of course, privacy. Another is transparency. So do we understand what this model is doing and why it's doing it? And are we being transparent with both our travelers as well as our B2B partners about the impact of that? And I think that's something that's been extremely useful, extremely important as we start to adopt that across our organization.
And
Ross, any thoughts about how you are safeguarding some of these issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think an interesting question will arise when people start empowering intelligent agents to work on their behalf to go out and actually book something. Who's then liable when it screws up, right? So is it the customer for not paying close enough attention? Is it the person who developed the agent in the first place?
It's the engineer's fault, always.
Obviously. Yeah, I think that'll all get litigated.
Yeah, I think.
I think more and more of what is there's currently an engineer in the loop. Increasingly, the engineer will be out of the loop.
Yep.
And so, again, who's liable when it screws up?
Right. And then, Gianni, any other thoughts about safeguards?
Yeah, I think this is an area, I believe, where regulation is really warranted and required. And I think there could probably even maybe be better collaboration between, companies and various given industries, because this is something I equate it to sort of like sustainability. If you get these two things right, the world's just really going to be, I know this sounds like pie in the sky, but the world's going to be a much better place. So it's all of our interest to do a better job in those areas. So to me, that collaboration within and outside of industries, and also help and assistance and collaborating with government and regulators is critical.
And we've really started to see that in the US, right, where all the tech companies have come together to sort of like voluntarily accede to sort of a code of conduct,
Correct.
like principles they'll ascribe to when it comes to artificial intelligence, just to keep everyone safe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I mean, so the question I have is we talk a lot about big tech and how this is going to be the big road that they're building, and all of us are just going to be on it. So does it really mean that artificial intelligence is only for boys with cash, or the big guys with cash, or is it really can everyone participate in this wave?
Yeah, I think this is going to open up travel to a new range of participants we never had. This industry has largely been dominated by big players, by large airlines. And I think the impact we never talk about is what this will do to the airline profiles and the hotel profiles, and what type of companies can legitimately operate businesses. We've seen this obviously with Airbnb and in the hotel space. This is just going to accelerate the options that are available, and I think that's exciting.
And I think this is incredibly empowering for entrepreneurs, just starting out. Right, we talked about this yesterday, but the tools, the AI tools that are now available, will enable somebody, one person, to start something that may have taken 10 people previously, just because of the amount of stuff that you can automate. I see, and the foundation models, that's going to be a game for the big guys. You're still going to need hundreds of millions of dollars and data centers full of GPUs or TPUs to generate them. But fine-tuning models, or working with the APIs being made available, or with the open source models that have already been trained, any company can partake in that. Yeah, so I think it's incredibly empowering.
Especially for the travel industry, Karen. I mean, you work with B2B partners. How does that benefit your suppliers or your other partners?
Yeah, so Expedia is a little bit unique in some ways. So we have a very large B2C retail portion of the business, and then we have a very large kind of B2B side of the business, both working with supply partners as well as distribution partners. And so we have a lot of data, a lot of travel data that's very rich, and we can take all of these learnings from our B2C side of the business and use that to really improve our offer across all of our B2B side. And so whether that's, making sure that our distribution partners are inheriting some of these things automatically, or then also any time that you can create that amazing traveler experience, all of our supply partners are super happy and very excited. And so I think in that way as well, it's a really good way that, Expedia as a larger travel corporation can kind of extend that benefit to any and all of our partners.
So you basically are just aggregating the data, you are kind of synthesizing it, and they are the beneficiaries of that outcome.
Yep. And we've also, all of this that we've built inside of our own technology platform. And, with Traveler OS, this is really where we're starting to offer, kind of bits and pieces of this as well at a more granular level out to kind of a lot of our partners. And so, we definitely want to make sure that we're sharing and that we're empowering and enabling all of our B2B partners.
So if I'm a small, medium enterprise travel partner, what would be some advice you would give on how I can get on this journey?
Maybe, there's so much information, models, and data out there. TensorFlow is a perfect example of a model we developed several years ago, and it's open source, and anyone can make use of it. So I think, coming back to that issue, there's so much information and data available. I think what's really going to be critical is having a solid understanding of what is available and also figuring out how that can apply to your specific business in your specific area. And I think over time that will also change the profile of the type of resources you may end up hiring.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The answer is try it out. There's so many tools out there. There used to be big barriers to entry to be able to do things in travel. You can spin up systems and start to experiment with things, with very little friction. And I think I encourage everybody to do that and start to change the way we think about the travel industry.
And because it's changing so fast, try and figure out who are the experts in the space who are following it, and then sort of rely on them to keep you up to date. Because it's really
riding the wig of the experts, right?
Yeah, where's Timothy? You said yes. So figure out who are the experts in every space, and then stay up to speed because it is moving really fast, and don't be afraid to try stuff.
Great. Well, that's great. And we're just going to close off with a lightning round now. So I'm just going to ask you questions, just 2 questions. The first one is, if there was no limitation on artificial intelligence and the power it can do, what is the one thing that you'd be really excited about? Gianni?
For me, the analytics, the computational capabilities, I think there's a huge amount of benefit for players in the industry, especially on the supply side, to better optimize their schedules, their resources, their staff, and servicing their partners or their customers. So I think that whole sort of optimization and forecasting and planning through analytics, I think that's going to be huge, especially as these sets of data come together and are more readily accessible. To me, that's the single most important thing. Lots of focus on interaction with users. That seems to be the craze right now. But I hope we don't lose sight of the operational capabilities and the operational benefits that can be generated over time.
Great. Tom?
I'm really most excited about the impact on business travel. All we talk about is consumer travel and price and shopping and all these types of things. We don't talk about business travel, which is a more prescribed activity. AI has the ability to take care of all of that for you, including integration with really clunky systems like expense reports and that kind of stuff. So I think that the AI will simplify that process and make it a little less clunky, I guess.
Someone was just talking about the repeatable stuff, the stuff that you can outsource, right? If you can outsource it to a business provider, I think that's the stuff that's going to disappear.
It should just tell you what to do. Your company should say, hey, this is where you're going, and this is where your seat's going to be. It should all be taken care of for you. Consumer and leisure travel requires aspirational, thinking about what you want to do. But business travel it should all be automatic.
Well, someone's going to plan my travel for me.
Starting with this trip.
Does that mean that there was no need for travel agents anymore?
Well, I think travel agents need to be consultative. And a lot of what travel agents do today is solve servicing problems. The majority of the travel agent interactions aren't planning the trip or consulting, but hey, you should try this. It's dealing with mundane problems that occur during the trip. That needs to be eliminated, and that can be handed over to the machines. Okay. But the advising part needs to be a human thing because only a human can know what you might like or not like and can tell you, that soup was terrible. Don't eat it. That's the kind of thing I think I'd like to see agents do.
I think that's the key is sort of have the technology take care of all the computational activity, and that frees up humans to do a better job interacting, planning, creativity, all the things that you basically don't have time to do on a day-to-day basis because of all the sort of more mundane but important demands.
Yeah. Ross?
Yeah, I get really excited about the having an intelligent agent that can help you with pretty much every aspect of your life, including travel. It's a bit like the vision General Magic had 15 or 20 years ago now, but we finally got the tech to actually build it. So I think that's going to be game-changing.
Great.
I'm going to go a little off and say pharmaceutical. So we all have seen kind of the impacts of healthcare and things like that can have on travel and just us as a society. And so I'm super interested to see kind of what can happen there.
Wonderful. Well, please join me in thanking the panel for this wonderful discussion.